Hello, everyone. Welcome to the A Train to Sedona. I'm Linda Marasanico. Today's podcast is going to be different. It's just you and me. Let me share the agenda. I'm going to read from the memoir that I wrote, also The A Train to Sedona, as many of you know. I'm going to share some of the work I've done in an elongated biography. I'm going to share the story of my book's development, my ups and downs, and also some stories about Sedona. Uh, there is a relaxation exercise that I absolutely love. I call it 4-4-8. Breathe in 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 8. And we can do that to relax after I tell you some exciting stories. I'm going to tell you the story of buying a home, which I owned for 13 years in Sedona. I'm going to read from the book. At the end of each chapter is a section called Reflections, and I'll be reading from that. And I'm going to share the way I pray and some of the responses I've gotten. More stories, perhaps a poem, and we'll see how much time we have. So let me start with the introduction to the A Train to Sedona. I hope you can see it. That's Cathedral Rock, by the way, one of the most photographed vortexes in Sedona. So I call this Finding My Heartfelt Voice. This is a story of my adult life and my spiritual journey. I, a girl from Queens, eventually transplanted to Brooklyn by way of London, Denver, and Toronto. In 2007, I added a home in Sedona, Arizona, which I had been visiting twice a year with my Long Island spiritual group. The spiritual group was led by a deeply committed woman who cherishes her privacy and so wishes to be identified simply as Anita D. For me, it was a new experience that lasted 8 years and continues to grow and develop. In the social discussions before and after meditations and chanting, and the energetic healings, I learned concepts I had never heard before. At first, I had no understanding of the ideas described in the group. We learned of ascended masters such as Saint Germain, Sanskrit words, energy work, avatars. Our dedicated moderator included the wisdom of so many traditions: Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, Catholicism, Judaism, the stuff of metaphysics, global beliefs, which I ran through my filter. I was a sponge soaking up the principles with this caveat: ideas embraced must resonate in my heart. I was inspired to read many books by original thinkers: Greg Braden, Lee Carroll, Wayne Dyer, Donna Eden, Masaru Emoto, David Hawkins, Tom Kenyon, Bruce Lipton, Neil Donald Walsh, Gary Zukav, and later, Candace Pert. Truly, I was and remain inspired by these trendsetters. My internal metaphysicist was born after the trauma of September 11, 2001. Many of us would never be the same again. I felt bereft, wanting to be part of a group greater than myself. This led me to finally join the Park Slope Food Co-op, something I had previously put off because of time constraints. And this became a kind of neighborhood family, a United Nations of diversity and collaboration. In September 2002, Derek O'Neill, a prominent motivational speaker from Ireland, gave a New York seminar. It was my first exposure, actually, to the higher self meditation, where approximately 150 of us moved up to our higher self to communicate with a loved one. I chose my parents who were alive at the time. Through this powerful facilitation, I was able to ask a question of each and to receive a response, thereby resolving two issues of conflict. I was blown away by the possibilities within each of us to reach into a deeper consciousness. After reading almost all of Neale Donald Walsch's books, it occurred to me that time is an illusion of the ego, that our many lifetimes, the incarnations that we have, are simultaneous. What follows from this is that we have intrinsic knowledge. Answers are available to us when we cultivate our internal heart to higher self-access. At around the same time, I became aware of author and scientist Greg Braden, who had written that the heart beats to the pulse of the earth. At this point, I intimately knew that the heart is an important focal point to reach in our deeper knowing. All this new thinking was affecting my own practice as a spiritual coach. I remember receiving information from my clients' unconscious processes. I would pick up what feels like a ping or a sensation in my body when they disavowed a thought. This sensitivity was the beginning of my emerging clairvoyant ability, which has continued to develop as I move away from third dimensional angst. We are all wired in the same way, and as we move toward compassion, our multisensory self emerges. During these 8 years with my spiritual group, there was a lot of emotional work to do. I am a baby boomer, born after a turbulent war. My father, who passed away 11 months after my mother, was a Marine who saw the flag go up at Iwo Jima. My mother told me my dad was never the same when he returned from that battle. Dad told me that he was both afraid and not afraid. He disembarked from an aircraft carrier to ride in a diesel-powered boat. With his sensitive stomach, he became nauseous and couldn't wait to reach the beach where he could have been killed. He stepped onto the sand and discovered a mine 6 inches from his boot. Although my brother and I were not even born at the time, I remember asking my brother, who was not particularly metaphysical, where he thought we were when Dad almost got killed. Quote, "We were telling him where to step. Safely," end of quote, he replied. Well, my journey from a quiet child to having a heartfelt voice began in a simple, strict, loving Italian family. We later learned that my paternal grandfather's descendants came from Russia, Romania, and Italy. I am the eldest of 4 active children, the daughter of a mother who was a homemaker, and father who is the son of an entrepreneur. My parents instilled in us a strong work ethic. My father adored my mother. He cooked and helped around the house, which was a bit unusual for the 1950s. My challenge was to find my own heartfelt voice, to create a path to self-expression in a home where family values were more important than individuality. I was raised to be a homemaker and mother, yet I wanted a career as well. There was no role model. There were years of intermittent loneliness and self-doubt, lots of support from my family, even though I am regarded as more than a bit odd when they are being kind. Other times I have been called crazy. I've been told that people don't want to hear what I have to say. Well, being Italian, Russian, and Romanian, this is juxtaposed with a lot of love. Oy vey. Basically, they haven't understood me. and my big mouth, I mean my heartfelt voice. Now, in this book, I share my spiritual journey on the road to compassion. My childhood experiences would fill another book, and that effort would be about 500 pages. My hope is to share tidbits to inspire you, perhaps to make your journey easier. Be determined as you enjoy the challenges, making your way. As a friend told me, never give up on your dreams. I want to add that our dreams are grist for the mill of our co-creations, where we work with God to fulfill constructive desires. There is no greater partnering than this. Well, that's the introduction to the A Train to Sedona. And now we have just a minute or two before we break, but I'm going to start talking about sort of a biography, an elongated one, to let you know more about who I am. I write about love, playfulness, visualization, meditation, and stillness as a path to a joy-filled life. You can find me at lindamarcianico.com. I have over 200 blog posts. I have a published article or two, many podcasts, and a SoundCloud, 2 SoundCloud recordings. And you can also sign up for my mailing list on the Contact Linda page. My blog was born in January of 2013. She's 12. My first editor, after reading some of my book, said, you must have a blog. An author has to have a blog. And I said, there's no way that I want to do that. There's such a commitment to writing all the time. And I disregarded her advice, sent the book out, and it got rejected again and again and again. Okay, I need a blog. Linda Marcianico needs to start a blog. And it took me about 6 months to decide from what perspective I would look at spirituality. It was going to be a spiritual blog. And after about 6 months, I realized the focus would be love and compassion. For it is my heartfelt belief that when we are loving and compassionate, self-loving, loving of others, which creates compassion, we are spiritual. Now we have to leave for a break right now. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you about who I met in Sedona, someone that you may know. So off we are to the break, and we shall return.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
I was muted and now I'm unmuted and I can speak through my heartfelt voice. In 2000, around 2005, I had the pleasure of meeting David Hawkins, MD, PhD, in Sedona. He was revered during his lifetime for his work, for his energy. His most noteworthy book is Power versus Force, and I highly recommend it. He produced many videos, and he also talked about muscle testing. And in his book, he has the protocol for muscle testing, where you hold your arm out, and when you state a truth, your muscles stay strong. When you speak an untruth, the muscles are weak and the arm collapses. I showed him a paper where I had quoted him immensely, and he took a copy of it and was very gracious. His energy radiated. When he passed in 2012, we were heartbroken. Another project was co-writing with Michael O'Brien Brown. He blogs for the Huffington Post. And he said, Linda, this is the title I'm suggesting. When intelligent people do stupid things. Cracked foundations, the void, and the magic of breathing. I thought, stupid things? I couldn't relate to calling people, or not calling them stupid, but saying they do stupid things. So I called a spiritual friend. What do you think of this title? And she said, I think it's very funny, Linda. Go ahead and write the article. And so I did. I wrote it, and it was well received. I also interviewed Michael. He's a published author. And as I said, he blogs for Huffington Post. And the interview on my blog is August 3, 2015. The article is on my media page. You can find it on media, but it was published August 16, 2016 on Huffington Post. I also did an article for spiritualphys.com, Building the Muscle of Meditation. When we want to build our bicep, we go to the gym and we practice. We don't practice, we repeat with the weights again and again to build the muscle. The same thing is true with meditation. In order to become more proficient, in order to get into the meditation more easily, we practice. So it's an interesting article if you want to look at spiritualphys.com. So at the beginning now, I was in 2 podcasts, and frankly, I don't remember which came first. So Amelia Ron interviewed me about balancing life as a career, as a woman who had a family and a career. And we also talked about the importance of bringing the unconscious to conscious for behavior change. We talked about having younger selves within us that we can communicate with them to develop joyful selves. We talked about the answers being inside of us and the importance of collaboration in my work. And I had this concept, which I still do, of updating the program in your brain, the computer program in your brain, by changing attitudes and behaviors. And I have a 4-stage model for change. 1, know what you're thinking. 2, know what your habitual behavioral responses are. And if you don't like those 2, you go in and you plan to change them. For the thinking, you go in and plant a more graceful, kind way to speak to yourself. And then we look at issues from childhood. We don't dwell there, but we want to understand the influences from childhood. The 4th is meditation and mantra. Very important tools for the toolkit. And also letting go of what doesn't serve you. There is an ebook that I have called Compassion in My Own Words. And if you go on Google and you put in Linda Marsanico, Compassion in My Own Words, you get to a place where you can download it for free. So the other podcast I did 8 years ago, we're talking, is with Nehemiah Davila, also known as neopositivity, and he speaks of thoughts become things. He was recently on my show a couple of weeks ago. And on that podcast, I talk about my spiritual beginnings, my openness to explore metaphysical possibilities. And in thinking of spiritual coaching, when you bring two people who are very interested in collaborating on their growth, you get involved rather in an art form. It's beautiful. Then there's Candace Pert, who talks about the body being the unconscious. And her book, The Molecules of Emotion, is amazing. So when we disavow an experience, it gets sent to our body. We send it to our body. And after a while, if we're disavowing and disavowing, we get aches and pains, and we're very uncomfortable, and it can lead to illness. Now, with neopositivity, I shared a quote from Saint Germain. And this quote goes like this: thoughts and feelings are living, pulsating things, and we have to understand that we are creating, and it's coming back to us. So we have to understand that we are creating and it's coming back to us. And this is kind of in line with one of the concepts that I developed, that we are broadcast journalists, that from our thoughts and feelings and actions, we send out energy all the time, consistently. And then, of course, everybody feels that energy. And of course, that energy attracts like energy and comes back to us. And also in the podcast with Neo, I share Merlin's statement that we can use our wands, this magic, to create what we want. And the using of the wand and the magic has to do with our intention to create. So in the A Train to Sedona, I talk about ways to clear the cobwebs so that readers can co-create their constructive desires. We talk about divine right timing, taking in what resonates, and of course, I am a Reiki master and I use integrated energy and vortex with my clients to relax them. And that it's all about healing, taking care of the temple. So that's my work biography. And I wanted to share something about writing the book. As I mentioned in my Heartfelt Voice introduction, when I was involved with Anita's spiritual group, I had such an experience that I wanted to share it. It was so special. And when I sent the book out and got rejected, I was inspired to start my blog. But the book was written in 2010 to 2011. And I remember in 2016, I had a telepathic communication. Now, we all receive communications in different ways. For me, it comes around like a quiet ticker tape. And I heard, this is not the time for your book to be published. Well, I must tell you, I was very disappointed. But in my faith, I worked it out for myself and knew that at some time it would be published. It wasn't until about 2021 that Jared Rosen came into my life. And Jared is a book whisperer. Because when I look back on the book that got rejected again and again, it was very dry and technical, and people were not receiving it well. The editors were not receiving it well. So Jared inspired me to tell stories. And I must tell you, I didn't realize how many stories I had in my experience. And so the book that you see now, if you should purchase it, is very different from the original book that I wrote in 2010. It's more interesting, it's funny, it's informative. There's more of myself and my experience breathed into it. So from 2001, right after 9/11, I started going to Sedona with my spiritual group. Anita had the spiritual group, and we went. And I must tell you that I never heard of Sedona before. Never. Everybody now, and I ask my friends, oh, yes, I'm from the 60s. One of my friends went there in the 60s. And anyway, I see that Gwendolyn Green Lindbergh said, Linda, you are not odd. We love you. Thank you so much, Gwen. So we went to Sedona. And I was struck by the beauty. The red rocks are huge and ever present. And the energy, not everyone feels the energy, but I did, and a lot of the group did. As I mentioned, I felt like I'm high. And with the emotional work that we started doing, I was knocked out, absolutely knocked out. Sleep early, up early, and working on ourselves, going to the vortexes. And the main vortexes for me are Bell Rock, which is this huge bell of orange rock, hugely beautiful. Airport, which I'm going to tell you a story about. I hope we have time to do that. Schnebly, which is such a name to pronounce, Schnebly. Now, Schnebly is Sedona Schnebly's last name. Sedona is a woman who was an early pioneer in the early 1800s, and her last name was Schnebly. And I must tell you that it is said, and I must tell you, in my opinion, this is so, that alien ships land in Schnebly. In fact, alien ships are all over Sedona. And as I mentioned before, Cathedral Rock is the most photographed. But I think that Bell Rock is my favorite. As I mentioned, the energy is amazing. It's electric. I often feel high. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you a story about what happened to me one day. We're off to a break now.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back, everyone, to the A Train to Sedona. Sedona. I'm Linda Marsanico. I'm thinking of Sedona. I must feel high. The story. I had to drive to Bell Rock because Bell Rock is in the village of Sedona, not in Sedona, main part. So I came back from the walk and the meditation. I'm up by myself. I get into my car. It's the summer. My driver's side window is open, and my glasses were somewhere. I don't remember exactly where they are. They were. See, I'm still feeling high. The glasses came off my body. They went out the window and they fell to the ground. And very simply and literally, universe was telling me, ground yourself before you get to driving in your car, because of course we know that driving is such a big responsibility. So I felt very taken care of. Now, the second story has to do with a trip I took with the spiritual group at a time of a severe drought. And we heard stories. Now, Sedona is surrounded by vast trust lands. There are mountain lions. There are so many, there's so much wildlife. Anyway, we come into Sedona, we hear stories of the coyotes encroaching on residential areas, eating dogs and cats. So Anita took us to Airport Vortex, which is right in town. And it's dusk, and we're sitting, seven or eight of us. We're sitting and we're meditating, and Anita has some music going, very quiet. And I hear ruckus. I hear, what I say to myself is, people are howling and kicking up and having a very good time. They're getting ready for a party. So we continue to meditate, and all of a sudden, Anita says, let's go now. And because we trust her implicitly, we picked up our blankets and we ran to the car. The coyotes were getting ready to attack us. They were getting up their energy to just ascend, because they were in a lower part. Airport has this big, deep plunge. So the next day, Anita spoke to a Native American shaman who said to her, I had a vision that last night you were almost dinner. So it's always good to remember that Sedona has a wild side. So after that very exciting story, I thought that we would do a little relaxing. So get into a comfortable space, and just for a few minutes, I'm going to suggest, if you don't want the exercise, if you don't wish to relax, you can go take a break, have a cup of tea. I have water with lemon, which I love so much. Anyway, sit comfortably and breathe in. So we're going to do breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm ascending and descending. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, you're breathing in, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Well, there's a blog I did about that, a more recent one, breathing. It's from December or November, where I describe more about building blocks of time so that you can relax yourself. I often do that before a broadcast. I'll breathe for a couple of minutes, and it really is wonderful. It's all about slowing the heart down and lowering your blood pressure. I loved Sedona so much that I purchased a home in 2007. It was in 2005 that I wanted to buy a house, but I wasn't successful. It was a seller's market. Prices were up so high, and houses were scooped up like that. I made 2 bids, and they were rejected. And I gave up in disappointment, and I said, why can't I have a house? It's a simple thing. I sort of got irritated with God, and I let it go. And out of the blue, my realtor, who became a dear friend, Lynn Easterday, showed me the pictures of 2 homes. So I flew out to Sedona. The first one required work, and work renovation from a distance of New York didn't appeal to me. Well, the second house was the most perfect house for me. We stayed in the house for 2 hours, and I loved it. Made a bid and bought it. And it was my happy place for 13 years. Now, why didn't I get to buy the house immediately? I learned what was important to me. I wanted to be in West Sedona, where I could walk to town, walk to Airport Vortex. I needed to develop faith and patience. And the house wasn't available until 2007. I think the prior owner bought it in 2005, scooped it up, and it was available to me in 2007. So now I'd like to read 2 stories. Which I think you'll find interesting. They're from the A train to Sedona. And here it is. Driving has been a source of adventure and challenge over the years. I rented a garage space that serves 12 vehicles. Because of a narrow entry, I had to back into the space. One summer night after 10 p.m., a large private garbage truck followed me as I turned the corner onto my street. My goal was to stop on the left of the street to then back up and into my car stall. An unusual entry that I never quite enjoyed in the 19 years of my residency. Now, this is an edited version of a blog post I wrote June 24, 2019, and you can find it on the blog page at lindamarcenico.com. I stopped on the left as I planned and opened the garage door. The garage, I always say this, it's the garbage truck, stopped too right behind me. Only as I backed up, the driver wouldn't budge to allow me the space I needed. I tried once more with the same result. On some level, I was afraid because of the late hour and because the driver could not be seen. Intimidated as I was, it was necessary for me to get out of my car on the dark, quiet street. I needed to ask for the driver's help. I reached past my fear into my heart, smiled, and motioned. to him. Through my speaking and gesturing, he understood what I needed, and he backed up, giving me the required space. I felt such a relief. As he drove off, we waved goodbye like friends who just completed a task. I felt grateful for his cooperation, which reminded me that we have the ability to make space for the other, negotiating the many situations we encounter. We can make life easier, stretching to communicate and accommodate. As the driver and I demonstrated that evening, he became more flexible and I more compassionate, a most pragmatic transition. My next example at the same garage had the opposite effect. Before getting to the garage, I had attended a dinner party where one guest, aggressively to win a point, maintained a position that denied a personal stance of mine. I gently gave this person examples of ways in which I've balanced my values in a nuanced way, yet this person was unrelenting and wouldn't acknowledge these subtleties. I hadn't realized how blocked I felt about this disregard for my sensibility until I got to the same garage at around the same time of night, where a car was parked directly in front of the entrance. I pulled up alongside of his car. The driver, a middle-aged man, was slow to advance once I gestured that I needed him to move. He pulled up, and I didn't think he left me enough room to back up. I flicked my low beam lights repeatedly in the effort to have him pull up further. My anger was palpable. He didn't budge or say anything as I continued to flick my lights. He put on his hazards. I felt the anger with each depress of my light lever. I finally caught myself, took a breath, reevaluating the distance I needed to back into my garage and successfully drive into my stall. And I did. I had felt blocked by the dinner guest, as well as the driver. This burst of negativity surprised me and seemed to come out of nowhere. There it had been lurking in my unconscious. Each cell in my body was charged with anger, and my energy radiated negativity. Once I understood my feelings, I was able to breathe and calm myself. I acted differently in these two very similar situations. I was calm and resilient in my response to the driver in the private garbage truck. Not so in the interaction with the man whose car blocked my entrance to the garage. Why? In this situation, lurking in my unconscious was the anger I hadn't consciously recognized. And this unknowingness sabotaged my ability to be compassionate with this driver. This example demonstrates the power of the unconscious mind to motivate our behavior and the importance of bringing the unconscious mind into conscious thinking. So I failed to be compassionate here, but the gift to me was that I realized the importance of bringing unconscious to conscious. Because if we don't, the unconscious motivates us without much control from us. So I see that we have to take a break now, and we will be back with another story that I think you're going to like very much.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marsanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the A Train to Sedona. This is Linda Marcanico. I have another story to tell you. This one is in the book. Some years ago, I was living in a condo, which had 3 families, and the family on the 3rd floor became pregnant. They had the baby and put their baby carriage right outside my door, so that when I opened my apartment door, 3 feet ahead of me was their carriage. I asked them, could you put the carriage in the outer vestibule or some steps up to the upper vestibule, the landing? And they refused. I spoke to the mother, who was enjoying being a new parent. I spoke to the father separately. They did not move the carriage. In my rigid stance, because I was so angry, I never offered to move the carriage for them, to fold it up and bring it to the outer vestibule or the landing. So for months, we were in conflict. A small building, the energy was negative. I was unhappy. They were unhappy. It was a very unpleasant situation. I think an angel whispered in my ear with the phrase, I am a bodhisattva. And a bodhisattva is a person on the path to enlightenment. Now, I'm not enlightened. I am working on the path to enlightenment. So I began to say, I am a bodhisattva. I am a bodhisattva. I am a bodhisattva. I'd come in from work and see the carriage in front of my door. I am a bodhisattva. I am a bodhisattva. I am a bodhisattva. And they moved the carriage. So my interpretation of that is that the energy of love is so powerful. It opens doors. It's a catalyst, that they felt that. And they were moved. I never saw the carriage in front of my door again. And later we became friendly, and Mary forgave me. I forgave her. And she wrote me a Christmas card one year. Oh, what a lovely neighbor you are. It was wonderful. But love was the catalyst. So we have some time, and I'm going to read from a section in the book called Reflections. It's at the end of every chapter. So I would write the chapter, and Jared said, I want to hear some reflections afterward. So let me read. I love reaching into my intuitive self. As I've written, it's developed over time with patience. The voice of Creator is subtle, and the intuitive sensibility is important for connecting in this way. Years ago, I wore my music headset before the iPod, as I fast walked in the park. Loud music truly motivated me to move and groove, but I could not hear the birds or really listen to the sounds of nature. After a time, I received a telepathic communication from Universe to leave the headset at home. Since then, I walk or ride in the park without devices, a kind of walking or riding when I'm on my bike, meditation. I sense my surroundings, see the beauty of nature, and hear the birds sing. This connection inspires, nurtures me, and complements my physical activity. I become part of the family of flora, which is the grass and the trees, and the fauna, the animals, and fellow humans being. Another section from Reflections. I'm excited to live in this magical world where we entertain the organic and multidimensional, where a particle becomes a wave, where protons think and the rhythm of nature flows with its flora and fauna and infinite variety. We are affected by hidden dimensions and possess an inner wisdom which is waiting to be developed. It is said that we have access to pure awareness through muscle testing with the map of consciousness, and that's from David Hawkins. We observe consciousness itself. We are quantum, the stuff of universe. The salt water in our cells is changed by sound. The universe lives within us, and we live within universe. Wow. Isn't it amazing that we are such an integral wave in this quantum world? It is also amazing that our chakras ring with a sound from A to G on the musical scale. I don't hear that myself. But some people, like my former hairdresser, can hear them. And I learned that from him. Oh, he said one day, "You're really in a good place. I hear your chakras." What? I said. So only then did I learn that the water in our bodies is saline. I was astounded that the oceans in our cells share this quality. What is it about salt? As adults, we are 70% water, and the earth is 70% water. What did Creator have in mind when designing this similarity? The work of forgiving, this is another reflections. The work of forgiving and accepting is a complicated challenge. Apt material for your focus. Think of this as a marathon rather than a sprint. Be patient. Interactions with others help you to look in the mirror so that you are poised to ask what this can teach you about yourself. What can you see about yourself? Seeing yourself clearly is a gift born out of the discomfort of discovering unconscious material, discovering something new. Think of the lotus that grows from the mud, the beauty which emerges from muck. I remember letting go of a situation that was nagging at me. Later that day, I took the subway to Soho in New York City for an appointment. Noticeable to me was my sharper focus and clarity in finding my way, not usually an easy task. I attributed this clarity to my clearing the issue earlier in the day. Having resolved the concern, I lifted its negative impact. I remember feeling excited about my lightness of being and about my ability to negotiate the streets in Manhattan. These are moments of joy where I mark my progress and know I am moving forward on the yellow brick road. I remember viewing Dorothy's joyful face as she made her way to Oz. Now we have about 3 minutes until we close, and I wanted to read a poem that I wrote during COVID. It was in 2020. I call it Tale of a City State. Now remember, it's in 2020. We are at the beginning of what we all experienced. There was an old city who lived in a situation. She had so many citizens who were dying in hospitals and homes. She did know what to do, from the churches and the schools to the few. Shelter at home, she said, as the virus blew the house down and people huddled, afraid and exposed. Be safe in shelter. Yet the people grew restless, even rebellious from boredom. You see, the city was built on rock and roll. The New York Times, the Daily News. The city is proud, yet New Yorkers have a heart. They can and have come together. The city is grateful, not dead. The city is the home of King Kong and the Daily Planet, Batman and Captain America. We are superheroes with masks, gloves, and PPE. I am counting the ways that I love thee, O New York, the city of my birth and my residence. We shall overcome. And there was one other one. We have about a minute. The time goes slowly. I've seen people wonder what day it is. Yet the time flows so quickly, moving through space as though on a superjet. How do we pass the days during COVID-19 confinement? We spend time reflecting, Zooming, phoning, eating, exercising, letting go of fear. Sunlight produces longer days, yet the sun doesn't reach my cheeks under the mask, which sometimes hurts my ears. My hands are cleaner than they've ever been. Caressed by cream and dreams of health and freedom, I forget to wear bracelets because I am mostly at home. I give thanks for my shelter, food, love, my work, family, friends, and the air I breathe. For I could not live without these. Yet I ponder, what will the new normal look like when we round the corner of spring to summer? I yearn for joyful surprise as this unfolds. Well, I've enjoyed this intimate conversation. We are ready to close. Next time, I have a wonderful guest, Tiffany Cano, who's an empath. She's funny, joyful. I think we're going to have a very, very good time. Bye for now.